As I looked back on that event, I'm so thankful that it happened at the academy and not sometime later in my career, right? When I was in charge of young airmen. But I'm glad it happened at the academy. And I took a couple of really great lessons out of it. Yeah, I was kind of at the top of my game, I felt like, in my senior year at the academy. We had a short break going in our soccer season. We had a weekend off, which was pretty rare. And the other captain and I were like, hey, let's get the girls together, right? We deserve to have a little bit of fun, take a little break. Like, what could we do to make that happen? And we decided, hey, let's rent a hotel room. We'll throw a little party. We'll have some friends over.
What cadets haven't done that?
Right, exactly. We'll be super responsible. We'll get the hotel room so nobody drives. You know? We thought about taking care of each other. But as it turned out, we had a great night, a fun time, no harm, no foul. But later that week, we found out that one of the freshmen on our team turned us in for underage drinking. That was a big, shocking moment in my senior year. So it turned into most of the team being restricted, marching tours, really having their reputation tarnished a bit. And even worse for us, maybe than that, was the season took a huge nosedive. We were in a really good place from a sport perspective, and we just couldn't get it back together after that happened. As I looked back on that event, I'm so thankful that it happened at the academy and not sometime later in my career, right? When I was in charge of young airmen. But I'm glad it happened at the academy. And I took a couple of really great lessons out of it.
That is quite a lesson. I mean, I'm just thinking about someone who is a high achiever, doing really well, has this reputation of, that's, like you said, untarnished. Let's just take a moment in that space, because there are experiences that all leaders have, I think, that are challenging in some way, that maybe is reputational. How do you navigate that? How did you carry yourself through that when it probably felt dark?
Yeah, it was a little bit bleak. I mean, my family knew about it, right? I found myself taking ownership. Like, ooh, we made a really big mistake. I made a really big mistake as a leader. I took the team the wrong direction, right? And so I apologized. Like, I apologized to the commandant. I apologized to my coaches. I apologized to my teammates. I apologized to some of their parents too, right? That we saw later in the season. I think the biggest thing that you can do in that moment is go, I've really screwed up, and I'll take stock of that and change in the future. You have to learn to forgive fast. Like, forgive yourself, right? I made a mistake. This isn't forever, right? It'll be something that I learn along the journey. But then also, for example, the freshman that turned us in, right? Like, that was a really emotional moment for the rest of the team.
And you all stayed on the team together?
We did for a while. She did end up leaving the academy eventually, which I'm disappointed about. Like, I kind of feel like that's a little bit of another leadership failure there. But I just think the thing I learned out of it later was you have to forgive quickly.
It seems so interesting that you had that kind of lesson so early. But I think one of the best things about the academy, it is really as a leadership lab, right? We talk about, being able to grow from learning lessons. How would you say your other cadets, outside of the bubble, right? The bubble being those who are in it with you, because I think in life in general, when things happen, you kind of have this other perspective of people who don't know what's going on. And so then they come up with their own perceptions and thoughts on that. How did you navigate that as a cadet in the cadet wing?
Yeah, I think it was trying at my first attempts at transparency.
Yes.
Like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, people would ask us, how much trouble are you guys in? And at first we'd be like, well, we don't really know. We don't know what this is going to turn out to look like. And then once we kind of got our punishment, 6 months of restriction, 100 tours, 100 confinements, but with the potential, at least for the seniors, to still graduate, we tried to share that with people too. Like, as if the leadership at the academy, still had some faith in us and thought we might still be able to graduate and be lieutenants someday. There was also this kind of feeling of, I can't believe that your teammate did that. Yeah. And we tried to address that too, so it wouldn't come back especially specifically on her,
Right.
as, she was the one at fault here.
Right.
Like we were all at fault, not doing the right thing.
What a way to rise above. And I think really, what a beautiful story, because I think some lessons in there: transparency, making sure that it was responsibility that everyone took on, and it wasn't starting to point fingers, because I think it certainly is easy to try and push things away from ourselves, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this leadership lesson, watch the full episode by hitting the thumbnail here, and subscribe now to get the latest episodes of Long Blue Leadership delivered directly to your YouTube feed or wherever you get your podcasts.